71 days into the Russian invasion of Ukraine, something has just happened which could be interpreted as one of the biggest potential escalations of this conflict. Russia has explicitly warned that NATO vehicles bringing arms and supplies into Ukraine will now be targeted and attacked. Remember, NATO is not a direct combatant so far, but Russia has now explicitly said, we will attack and destroy you. Will that force the NATO to become directly involved in the combat? What are the scenarios? Take a look. "71 days into the Ukraine war, with town after town and city after city either reduced to rubble or falling to Russian hands, Putin has issued a warning that has the potential to make this a much bigger conflict than it already is. The warning articulated by Russia's defense minister.
The United States and its NATO allies are continuing to pump weapons into Ukraine. I want to mention that we view any transport to the North Atlantic Alliance arriving on territory of the country destined to Ukraine army as a legitimate target to be destroyed."
What the Russian defense minister has said is already sending shockwaves. The Russian military has repeatedly conducted strikes on Ukrainian depots containing Western weapons. But actually striking Western transports delivering those weapons would mark a significant escalation in this conflict. The Russian warning is therefore a direct threat to the larger security situation in Europe. So far, NATO has played a support role in Ukraine, shipping containers full of advanced weapons and ammunition, military hardware and combat supplies across the Polish border into Ukraine. NATO has also played a second critical but invisible role, aiding Ukrainian defense forces with satellite data, targeting intelligence and sensor access to help attack Russian positions and assets with accuracy. If NATO vehicles and trucks carrying weapons become legitimate targets to the Russians, does that mean that NATO will be forced to hit back when attacked? And if that happens, what is the nature of the escalation ladder? And where will it actually end? Bureau Report, India Today. It has all the makings of a truly nightmare scenario, much worse than what's already happening in Ukraine. So let me just refresh our viewers' minds about what those supply trucks from NATO and are actually bringing into Ukraine. There are tanks and there are armored vehicles that are coming in large numbers to Ukraine from NATO. There are also a lot of anti-tank weapons coming in, courtesy of the United States and Germany, especially the Javelin and others. There are anti-tank, anti-aircraft missile systems and anti-aircraft gun systems that are coming in, courtesy NATO. They're coming in via trucks. There are artillery and heavy guns, 155 mm, 130 mm, M777, ultralight howitzers, all coming in, courtesy NATO. There's also a lot of ammunition and ordnance, shells, bullets, from rifle bullets all the way up to tank shells that are coming in huge NATO consignments in trucks across the Poland border. And finally, let's remember there are also a lot of radars, sensors, electronic equipment, computers of all kinds that are being shipped in on NATO trucks into Ukraine. So all of these supplies are coming in, and what Russia has basically said is all those supply convoys are now going to be fair game. Quickly want to tell you also where these supplies are coming from, so it gives you an idea of where Russia is at least stating it will launch those attacks. Yellow is Ukraine, of course. This is Poland. Many of these NATO countries use Poland as a base to send weapons. So tanks, etc. are coming into Poland, and then over the Ukraine border is where those supplies are going. So these are basically the NATO supply routes into Ukraine. The big city of Lviv is there. The capital city of Kyiv is over there. So those are the supply routes that Russia now says it will target, and NATO equipment and supply convoys will be fair targets.